Jason Sorrell here, Creative Oddity Studios, and here I'm going to show you today how to make a tattoo stool. Now this is just a stool with some artwork put on top of it, and I guess you could use any kind of artwork for the stool you wanted. It could be a porn stool, it could be pictures of kittens and puppies stool, it could be family pictures if you want to sit your butt on your aunts and your uncles and your grandparents or whatever pictures of them. You could have that for a stool, but because I'm a tattoo artist, tattoo art kind of reflects who I am. These are the kinds of stools I'll have and I'll be using in my studio space and using for my clients, and they just look cool to me. Years ago I saw some episode of some show on PBS where a couple of artists lived together and they had either modified or fabricated every piece of furniture, every object in their home. It was a reflection of who they were. So that's kind of the inspiration for this particular project. Here's a picture of the things you're going to need to do this project yourself. You will need obviously a stool, nice clean surface, flat surface stool. You can get this at different stores and things like that. Artwork that you want to put on your stool, and I recommend that if you're cutting your artwork out for magazines that you avoid straight lines or sharp corners. You want nice rounded edges because you want to fit this all together nicely in a collage. You will need rubber cement to apply these pieces of artwork to your stool. And then you'll need a nice clear lacquer. I'm using here a clear satin lacquer and a brush to apply that lacquer to your stool, to the artwork, to coat it and seal it and basically make it last forever. After you've cut your pieces of artwork out, and when you cut these pieces of artwork out, when you're selecting your pieces, you want to go for variations in size, variations in shape. You don't want it to be too uniform in any one particular way. That uniformity will then suggest a design or a pattern that if it's not there will be aesthetically displeasing. So you want to go for variation, you want it to be a jumble, you want it to be kind of random, but go with things that you like. Arrange these pieces on top of your stool. Try to figure out where things are going to go. You want kind of some overlap. You don't want one piece to be predominantly on top of all the others and what have you. You want different pieces covering different edges of other pieces, and you want to cover the whole stool. Try to cover the whole surface. You're not gluing anything down right now. If you can take a picture of the pieces where they're at, this is something you can refer to when you actually go to glue the pieces down. But right now it's just a matter of selecting the different pieces and arranging them in a pleasing fashion. Now take all the pieces of selected artwork off the top of the stool and set them aside for a moment. You're going to get out the rubber cement, and I'm using here Elmer's rubber cement because it's inexpensive and it works really well. You take this rubber cement, and the brush is kind of tiny. You're going to coat the top of the stool with rubber cement, and you're going to let that rubber cement dry. The interesting thing about rubber cement, some people are aware of this and some people aren't, is that it is not like standard adhesive, not like standard glue. You can adhere things to a surface while the rubber cement is wet and it will stick and what have you, but the best way to use rubber cement is to let the rubber cement dry and then take whatever it is you're going to glue to that rubber cement and coat that surface with rubber cement as well. Let that dry and then place the two pieces together. The dried rubber cement forms a greater bond. It's bonded with the wood, it's bonded with the paper, and then they'll bond to one another. So coat the bench with, or coat the stool with rubber cement and let that dry, set that aside. Next, you're going to coat each piece of artwork on the reverse side with a thin layer of rubber cement. You don't want to soak the paper, you don't want the paper to wilt from the wetness of the rubber cement. Just a nice thin coat, and then you're going to set that piece aside and let it dry. It's a good idea to have some newspaper laying around or whatever that you can put those pieces down on that newspaper, let those pieces dry. Just make sure that those pieces don't touch one another or don't blow over on top of each other, especially if one of them flips over, because once those two pieces hit together with the rubber cement sides facing one another, they will be bonded together. They will not come apart. So you want to make sure to keep those nice and separate and don't have a fan blowing or anything while you're doing this. I guess I should point out that you should be in a well-ventilated area while you're doing this, although you don't want a lot of breeze or anything going on. You just want to have some windows open so that the fumes from the rubber cement and the lacquer, don't knock you out. What you want to do with the pieces of artwork once all the rubber cement's dried is you want to put them down in the arrangement that you had before as close as possible. I start with the larger pieces first because they cover the most surface. You don't want to lose the smaller pieces being covered up completely by a larger piece, so start with your larger pieces. It's probably a good idea. And you're trying to cover the entire top surface of the stool. You want to cover the edges as well as all the spaces in between the pieces of artwork. Just make sure that everything's covered up and make sure everything's facing in different directions. You don't want it to be uniform in any way. You want all the different pieces to go in different directions so that there's something visually stimulating at any angle that you look at the stool. If you let the rubber cement dry before you place the image onto the stool, then the bonding should be almost immediate. So you should be able to immediately go to an X-Acto knife that I'm showing here and cut away at the edge of the different images to get that round surface for the stool. And what I basically do is I just ride the X-Acto knife along the edge of the stool itself. So I use the stool's edge itself as a guide, and just a nice easy cut. All the excess just drops right off the stool, and I end up with a nice round uniform surface with the artwork and the stool showing. As you can see here in this image, this is the initial cut all the way around the stool, and again, you take the X-Acto knife and you ride it along the edge where the rounded part of the side of the stool actually meets the top surface of the stool. You're going to ride along that edge and you're going to cut away all the excess. Then once you've cut away all the excess, go back and check it, because you'll see some frayed spaces, some places where it didn't cut quite cleanly, where you want to go with the X-Acto knife again and cut all that away, make sure it's nice and clean, so you have a nice round circular shape to the artwork that's on your stool. For the sake of this photo, I did the initial lacquer brush inside for the first coat. I recommend doing this outside. You're going to be putting several coats of this lacquer on here, and I recommend the brush on lacquer, the satin lacquer actually just kind of spreads out nice and smooth all by itself over the spray on the lacquer. The spray on lacquer takes a lot of layers to get that spray on lacquer to coat properly. With the brush on lacquer, you get a little bit more for your effort. Just laying it out with a brush, and I ended up doing maybe 6 or 7 coats of this lacquer once every 2 hours onto the surface to get everything nice and solid and watertight. And finally, we have the finished piece. It's all sealed, it's all dried, it's got a nice thick layer of lacquer across the top of it, so the artwork is well protected. This can sit outside in the rain. This can, water can get poured on it. It can be used as an end table. It can be used the way I'm going to be using it, as a tattoo stool for my clients. It can sit outside as a balcony with a set or whatever, or along a table or what have you. So it's a pretty cool way to jazz up an otherwise plain wood stool. Total cost of materials for me was probably around $21 put into this. I'm going to probably be selling these for about $40 or $50, and doing custom pieces like this for as much as $80. So it's a fun thing to do. It looks really cool when you got a bunch of them together, and so nice way to make a little bit of money. So thanks for checking it out, and look for more little projects like this in the future.